Okay, so right in the heart of Manhattan, there's this 2-acre patch of green that almost nobody gets to walk in. Seriously, it's like this secret garden, a totally private, serene oasis locked away from all the chaos of the city. We're talking about Gramercy Park, and for nearly 2 centuries, it's been the ultimate symbol of quiet exclusivity. And the first thing you see, the only thing most people see, is the fence. It's this huge black iron barrier that basically says, you can look, but you can't touch. This is not your everyday Central Park or Washington Square. Nope, this is a private club, and only a very, very small number of people are on the list. So yeah, that fence just makes you wonder, right? It's the question every New Yorker has asked at some point. Who are these people? Who actually holds the key to get inside Gramercy Park? Well, today, we're going to find out. To really get the story of the park today, you got to go way back to the beginning. And believe it or not, this super fancy neighborhood, well, it all started as a swamp. The guy behind it all was this developer named Samuel Ruggles. And back in the 1830s, his plan was, well, it was kind of nuts. He wasn't just throwing up a few buildings. No, he was creating an entire exclusive little community from scratch. And the centerpiece, the big selling point, a private park that would act like a giant shared backyard for all the rich and powerful people he wanted to lure in. So check this out. In 1831, Ruggles actually drained the swamp and legally tied the parkland to the 60 lots he was planning to sell around it. Fast forward to the mid-1840s, and boom, his vision is real. You've got these incredible mansions and brownstones popping up all around the park's edge. And then, in 1883, something brand new hits the scene, 34 Gramercy Park East. This building was one of the very first co-ops in New York City, and it totally sealed the neighborhood's reputation for being super elegant and forward-thinking. Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. That original deal Ruggles set up created the system we still have today, and it all boils down to one single, highly sought-after thing, the key. But you should know, getting your hands on one isn't as easy as just buying an apartment nearby. Not even close. So who actually gets a key? The rules are insanely strict. First off, you generally have to own property in one of the buildings that's literally right on the park, and that building has to have specific deeded rights to the park. Then each building's co-op board makes its own rules, so it can vary a lot. And here's the real kicker. The key doesn't just come with the apartment when you buy it. You're not buying a key. You're buying the right to have a key. It's a whole different ballgame. And listen, even if you manage to get a key, you're not just free to do whatever you want. Oh no, there's a whole list of rules. The park has trustees, and they enforce everything. When you can go in, who you can bring with you, they've got rules about parties, pets, even something as simple as playing catch. And if you step out of line, you can actually lose your key. Just like that, your access to this little slice of heaven is gone. What this all means is that you basically have 2 different real estate markets in the exact same neighborhood. If you're in a building with key access, that key is a massive amenity. It makes the property way more desirable, and yup, way more expensive. But if you're in a building without a key, even if you're right across the street with a perfect view of the park, the value is totally different. You get the view, sure, but you don't get admission. And you can bet the price reflects that. All right, so that's the park. But the buildings around it, they have their own stories to tell. Looking at the architecture here is like taking a walk through history. This place isn't just real estate. It's packed with culture and incredible stories. Let's start with 34 Gramercy Park East. I mean, just look at this place. This incredible Queen Anne building is more than just pretty. It's a living legend. It's the oldest co-op in New York City that's still running. Back in the 1880s, this place was the height of luxury. We're talking brand new Otis elevators, its own restaurant. It basically invented a new way to live in the city. Then, right nearby, you've got the Players Club. This place was started in 1888 by the famous actor Edwin Booth. And yes, for all you history buffs, he was the brother of John Wilkes Booth. It's been a private club for actors and creative types ever since. You know that statue you can see inside the park? That's Edwin himself, still keeping an eye on things. And right next door to that is the National Arts Club. This building was the mansion of Samuel Tilden, a New York governor who came this close to being president. He lost by just 1 electoral vote. But the club itself was really ahead of its time. It was one of the very first big social clubs in New York to let women become members, which was a huge deal back then. But Gramercy Park isn't just about old history. The story is still unfolding. In fact, one of its most famous landmarks, the Gramercy Park Hotel, just went through a really dramatic, very public collapse. And it's definitely the start of a whole new chapter for the neighborhood. For a century, that hotel was everything. It was legendary. It was this perfect mix of bohemian cool and five-star luxury. You had Humphrey Bogart getting married there, a young JFK staying there, bands like the Rolling Stones and Blondie basically living there. It was the absolute embodiment of New York's glamour and edge. And then it all just fell apart. So fast. The hotel shut its doors in March 2020, right at the start of the pandemic, and the landlord said they just stopped paying rent. We're talking millions of dollars. The lawsuits started flying, the debt just exploded, and by June of 2022, the owner was officially evicted. Then, just a few months after that, they started selling everything inside, piece by piece. And that final scene was just surreal. You had people lined up around the block, fans, old guests, just curious New Yorkers, all trying to buy a piece of the legend. People were walking away with everything from the velvet furniture to the hotel bathrobes. This glamorous, iconic place was just picked apart, sold for parts, right there for everyone to see. And that really brings us back to the park, doesn't it? The whole story of Gramercy Park is about this crazy mix of big ideas, strict rules, and somehow survival. It literally rose from a swamp to become this fortress for the ultra-wealthy, and it's watched New York City completely change around it for almost 200 years. So as the city keeps changing, keeps evolving, you have to ask the big question. In a world that's all about access, what's the future for a place that's famous for keeping people out?